Policies. At every step in the preparation of food, food handlers can contaminate food. Something as simple as rubbing an ear while preparing food could make someone sick. To keep from contaminating food, Cornerstone Food Service holds its employees to a standard of good personal hygiene. Work attire. Not only do poorly dressed employees give a bad impression of the food service staff, dirty clothing may carry pathogens that can cause foodborne illness. While working, Cornerstone Food Service employees are required to adhere to the following policies on their work attire. Long hair. Hair needs to be pulled back and off of the shoulders. All employees must wear a hat or hairnet. No open-toed shoes or sandals are allowed. Clean clothing. Make sure that all work attire is clean and presentable. Also, dirty uniforms must be placed in the proper designated areas. Aprons. When using the restroom, remove your apron and store properly. This will prevent the transfer of pathogens which cause foodborne illnesses. Remember, the overall appearance of the food service employee should be neat and clean. Eating, drinking, and chewing gum. Do not eat or chew gum during any of these times. When preparing or serving food, when working in prep areas, when working in areas used to clean utensils and equipment. Properly covered drinks using a lid and straw are permissible while working, but must be kept and stored in the designated drinking area. These rules are set in place to prevent the transfer of saliva into hands or directly onto food being handled. Remember, a small drop of saliva contains thousands of pathogens. Hand washing and single-use gloves. Hand washing is one of the most important parts of personal hygiene. This may seem obvious, but many food handlers do not wash their hands correctly or even as often as they should. Here are some simple steps to make sure you are washing your hands correctly. The process should take about 20 seconds. Step 1. Wet hands and forearms. Use hot running water, no hotter than you can comfortably stand, at least 100 degrees Fahrenheit. Step 2. Apply soap. Apply enough soap to create a good lather. Step 3. Scrub hands and arms vigorously. Scrub hands and arms for 10 to 15 seconds, being sure to clean under fingernails and between fingers. Be sure to keep your fingernails short, making them easier to clean. Step 4. Rinse hands and arms thoroughly. As mentioned before, use hot running water to rinse hands and forearms. Step 5. Use a single-use paper towel to dry hands and arms. Step 6. Turning off the water or opening the restroom door. If you are not careful, you may contaminate your hands after washing them. Consider using a single-use paper towel to turn off the faucet and open the door while leaving the restroom. Dispose of the towel in the proper waste receptacle. When should you wash your hands or change your gloves? Food service employees must wash their hands before starting work. Employees must also wash hands and change gloves after each of the following: using the restroom, before and after handling raw meat, poultry, or seafood, touching the hair, face, or body, sneezing, coughing, or using a tissue, wiping or touching the nose, rubbing an ear, touching a pimple or infected wound, eating, drinking, or chewing gum, handling chemicals, taking out garbage or touching garbage cans, cleaning tables or dirty dishes, before beginning a new task, touching or wiping hands on apron or clothing, handling money, in between single-use glove changes, as soon as single-use gloves become soiled or torn, at least every 4 hours of continual use of single-use gloves, and more often if necessary. Remember, you may not be wearing gloves during all these instances. However, when gloves are being worn, your hands need to be washed before putting on a fresh pair. Do not blow in your gloves, as this is not a sanitary method of putting on your gloves. It is also important to properly bandage and cover wounds or hands and arms. You must always wear a single-use glove over bandages on hands or fingers. These will protect the bandage and keep it from falling off into the food. It will also keep wounds that contain pathogens from contaminating food and causing illnesses. Labeling food. All food that has been prepared in-house must be labeled. The label must include the name of the food and the date which it was made, open, or the date by which it should be used. To help reduce the risk of food contamination during the process of storage, be sure to remove all utensils before wrapping food products, as the utensils can come in contact with many hands. Rotation. Rotate food to use the oldest inventory first. We use the first in, first out FIFO method to rotate our refrigerated, frozen, and dry food during storage. Store items with the earliest use by or delivery date in front of the items with later dates as shown in the video. Once shelved, use items stored in front first. The delivery date can be found on the GFS sticker located on the item. Remember, it is a good habit to check the dates before using an item. If you are not sure which item is oldest, check the use by or delivery date. Ice. Follow these simple guidelines to avoid contaminating ice. Use clean, sanitized containers and ice scoops to transfer ice from an ice machine to other containers. Store ice scoops outside the ice machine in the designated location as shown. Use designated ice buckets. When finished with ice, be sure to flip the buckets upside down as shown. Never use drinkware or hands to scoop ice. Remember, don't slam the lid. This can affect the operation of the machine. Health and illness. Food service workers must report any health problems before they come to work. If they begin to feel ill while working, find a manager and notify them immediately. Notify a manager if you have any of the following: diarrhea, vomiting, sore throat with a fever, jaundice, infected cuts and wounds, or lesions containing pus on the hand, wrist, or other exposed body part, which cannot be properly bandaged. Employees who have vomited or had diarrhea must be symptom-free for at least 24 hours before returning to work. Employees with jaundice must have written release form from a medical practitioner before returning to work. Chemicals. Do not mix chemicals. Some chemical mixtures may be harmful. Always know what chemicals to use. If you are unsure, ask a staff member. Never guess. Storing chemicals. If chemicals are stored in a wrong way or in the wrong place, they can contaminate food. Be sure to store chemicals away from food or utensils as shown. The chemicals have a designated area. Be sure that whenever using them, they are properly sealed or returned to their original and intended area. Remember, be careful when using chemicals while food is being prepared. Use precautions to avoid contaminating food. Cross-contamination can happen at almost any point during food preparation. When you know how and when it happens, prevention becomes fairly easy. Separate equipment and utensils. Be mindful of the task at hand. For example, when cutting raw meats, do not use the same knife or cutting board on vegetables. This is one easy way to prevent cross-contamination. If you need to use the same table to prep different types of food, do so at different times. Do not prep raw meat, fish, or vegetables simultaneously. Prepping foods at different times will minimize the risk of contamination. Cleaning and sanitizing. Be careful to clean and sanitize all equipment and work surfaces after each task. For example, when cutting raw chicken, you cannot get away with just rinsing the knife. You must wash, rinse, and sanitize it to prevent pathogens such as salmonella from contaminating food. Storing items. Make sure to store ready-to-eat foods and raw meat, fish, and poultry separately. Be sure that all foods are properly covered or wrapped as shown. Doing this will prevent raw juices from dripping on ready-to-eat foods. When storing raw meat, poultry, and seafood in the same area, make sure they are in the following order. First, we store ready-to-eat foods on top. Then seafood. Underneath the seafood is whole cuts of beef and pork. Next is ground meat or fish. And finally, whole and ground poultry. Get the picture? Remember, when entering or exiting a cooler or freezer, be sure to close the doors securely so the unit can maintain its proper temperature. Properly washing and checking utensils. Use the rack shown to send utensils and smaller objects through the machine. Position utensils so that the water sprayer reaches all surfaces. Never overload utensil racks. Utensils are run through the machine a minimum of 3 times. As the rack comes out of the machine, be sure to check it for dirty items. You may have to move items around to look for hidden debris. When a dirty item is found, remove the debris by scrubbing the item. Remember, the machine can't see the little things you can. How to clean and sanitize using a 3-compartment sink. There are 5 basic steps in cleaning and sanitizing in a 3-compartment sink. Watch closely as we go through the process. 1. Rinse, scrape, or soak your items before moving on to washing them. 2. Before filling the sinks, each sink and all work surfaces must be cleaned and sanitized. Next, clean the items in the first sink in a soap solution with a temperature of 120 degrees Fahrenheit. Use a cloth or scrub pad to wash away food debris on the item. It is very important to change your soap solution when the suds are gone or your water becomes dirty. 3. Rinse your items in the second sink. The sink will be filled with water only and have a temperature of 120 degrees Fahrenheit. Make sure that all traces of food and detergent are removed. Change your rinse water once it becomes dirty or sudsy. 4. Sanitize items in the third sink by using a bleach solution with room temperature water at 75 degrees Fahrenheit. 5. Place items upside down to air dry. Never use a towel to dry items. Doing this could recontaminate them.